Voters who are lukewarm on President Biden still plan to support Democratic candidates this fall, by and large. Citing Pew Research, the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Cook Political Report, Amy Walter, writes this, quote, among the 17% of voters who say they somewhat disapprove of Biden, 43% say they are planning to vote Democratic this fall, compared to 29% who say they'll vote Republican. In other words, those who are meh about Biden are voting for Democrats. This is not something we've seen before. Amy notes as well, in the last 5 midterm elections for which Pew had data, somewhat disapprovers of the sitting president have never been this supportive of his party in the upcoming election. And Amy joins us now. Amy, I'll let you flesh this out a little bit. President Biden's approval numbers have come up some, a couple of polls showing him up in the 45% range in the last couple of weeks. But this is such an interesting question. People say, I don't have strong feelings, or I don't really love Joe Biden. But is this just a rejection of what they're seeing on the other side of the ticket?
Well, that's the question, right? And what we know normally in midterm elections is that about 90% of the people who disapprove of the sitting president vote against that president's party, against the candidate down ballot of that president's party. And those who say they think the president's doing a good job or a pretty good job vote for that president's party. But here we have, as I cited in that story from Pew, research that suggests that we've never had voters who are like, they don't deeply dislike the president, but they say they don't really like him that much, saying, for now, I would go with a Democratic candidate over a Republican. And I think we have a couple of factors here at play. One is that so many of these voters are younger. They may be Democratic leaning. They're upset with Biden for different reasons, right? Maybe that he's not progressive enough. It may be that they don't think he's fighting hard enough on certain issues. But they look at the other side and they say, I can't show up and vote for Republicans. And I think we've been seeing this pattern, Willie, for quite some time. Remember in 2016, there were that group, that small but important group of voters who said, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like Donald Trump. I've got to pick one of them. And in the end, they broke disproportionately to Donald Trump. And so these conflicted voters who say, I don't know, I have two terrible choices. The big question for Democrats is, will they show up and vote at all? Because, as I said, they're younger. They're not as engaged in elections. So for Democrats, keeping those folks focused on the things that make them angry about Republicans, namely, as Sahel pointed out, abortion, but also Donald Trump.
So you mentioned abortion. A new Wall Street Journal poll finds abortion access is changing the political landscape ahead of the midterms. Democrats are now beating Republicans in the generic congressional ballot, 47% to 44%. While that is within the poll's margin of error, Republicans had a 5-point advantage over Democrats in March. So much has changed. Voters pointed to the overturning of Roe v. Wade as the single issue more likely to make them vote in November. That is ahead of 4 other issues tested, including inflation, border security, gun violence, and the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. White suburban women, a key group moved by the abortion issue, have shifted to Democrats by a margin of 52 to 40%. Case in point, Michigan, where new polling shows a growing lead for Governor Gretchen Whitmer ahead of November's election. The Democrat has a 13-point advantage over Republican challenger Tudor Dixon. That's up 2 points from polling done in early July. The Detroit News points to the issue of abortion as a reason for Whitmer's large lead. Voters said it was the top issue motivating them to cast a ballot this November ahead of inflation, education, and the economy. Huge issues. The lead pollster told the Detroit News the election should, quote, be about Democratic President Joe Biden. And it's not. It's about abortion. Dixon has made headlines for her hardline stance on the procedure last month. She told a Detroit TV station that she opposes exceptions for rape and that rape victims could find healing through having the baby.
She also said that a 14-year-old raped by her uncle should be forced compelled by the state to have the baby, and said that a 14-year-old being raped by her uncle was the perfect example, her words, as to why she doesn't believe in exceptions for rape or incest, even for 14-year-old girls. Amy, obviously, the extreme position taken by many Republican candidates from Arizona to Michigan, even scaring off people who've traditionally referred to themselves as pro-life voters. It now has, and I know you do this every day, so you have to be hearing this all the time. But what I keep hearing from Republican pollsters and Democratic pollsters are, we just don't know if any of these numbers are going to be right. And they'll point to Kansas. Right. That was like the pro-life forces were supposed to win by 2 points. They lost by what, like 18 or 19. So they're basically saying, we're doing the best we can do, but we have no idea who's going to come out and vote. Kansas taught us that.
That's right. And these low turnout elections, special elections, where Democrats did a lot better than they were supposed to as well. Well, what happens when we have regular turnout? You're exactly right. I talk to the same folks probably that you do. Lots of strategists out there doing the sort of shruggy emoji of, we just don't know. This is the first time in 50 years we've ever had to confront this. And to me, what's the most surprising, Joe, is that everybody sort of saw this coming, right? As soon as that decision came down in June, the Republican candidates could have seen that this was a potential issue and sort of moderated themselves along that. They know that the issue of abortion, most voters are somewhere within the 40-yard lines. They do not want no exceptions, but they don't want abortion without any restrictions at all. But what instead happened was so many of these primaries produced the most extreme candidates. And I think Republicans were just hoping that they could push through the economy, they ignore abortion, and the economy would drive them through. The special election in New York proved that that is not enough. So my big question is, what do Republicans do now? We've seen some of them sort of go in and scrub their websites of references to abortion, but many of them are on tape making these claims, Tudor Dixon being a prime example of this, with no exceptions whatsoever. But are we going to see Republicans now go in and start trying to protect themselves or proactively try to moderate themselves in the way we've seen Democrats try to preemptively push away attacks from Republicans about being soft on crime, about defunding the police? We've seen so many Democrats come out, try to take that off the table, but we just haven't seen Republicans do that on abortion.
Publisher and editor-in-chief of the Cook Political Report, Amy Walter, thank you very much for coming on this morning.